This is Andrew, and I will be teaching you today the fundamentals of modeling an LBO. Alright, so the goal by the end of these videos is for you to be able to build a full-fledged leveraged buyout model that can be rigorously defended in a private equity interview. The most common question I get from interviewees of private equity firms is how to do well in the modeling test, especially when that test is given under considerable time pressure, and I'm going to be showing you all the tools for how to build a model and build the investment presentation. The focus today is going to be a little bit on leverage buyout theory, so you understand the fundamentals of how a leverage buyout is put together. I'm also going to be talking about key Excel shortcuts that you need to know to model very efficiently during the test, because you don't want to spend a lot of time in the test clicking around with the mouse or toggling options and things like that. You want to have a good command of all the shortcuts you need at your fingertips so that you can efficiently and effectively and smoothly navigate Excel to just focus on building a model. I'm going to spend the bulk of the time on showing you the actual components of the model and how they all hook up and link together. And here I will be covering a little bit of accounting and corporate finance theory, but for sort of fundamental concepts on those things, you'll need to read a book or just learn up by reading articles online. And then I'm going to spend some time at the end showing you the kinds of things to consider when building key slides for your PowerPoint presentation that will accompany your model that you'll actually end up likely discussing and defending with the investment interview committee in your interview. What is not in scope for today are, as alluded to before, the fundamentals of accounting and corporate finance. Okay, for those principles on basic accounting and corporate finance theory, you can pick up a book, a standard textbook, or read Wikipedia articles online to understand how a balance sheet is put together, how an income statement, how a cash flow statement are put together. This course assumes that you have a decently solid understanding of accounting and corporate finance, and will probably just highlight, refresher ideas where necessary, but will not cover fundamental principles. I'm also not going to be covering complex modeling scenarios. It's likely that in your actual job as a private equity associate or analyst, that the models you build will be relatively more complex than what I'm going to teach you here today, because you will be spending days or weeks and sometimes even months building and refining core leverage buyout models, operating models, monthly models. Here I'm going to focus the bulk of our energies on how to build. It's still a relatively complex model, but it's it's simpler than what you would actually build on the job, just for purposes of performing well in the interview. And understand that in an interview, the expectations of your modeling are not going to be nearly as high as when you're actually on the job, because you just have more time on the job. So I'm going to be focused today on showing you how to build a decently complex but simpler than the actual job LBO model for purposes of an interview. I'm also not going to be focusing on showing you how to build a comprehensive investment presentation. When you're actually on the job, you'll be probably building 10, 20, 30, 50-page PowerPoint presentations that show all the nuances and intricacies of a potential investment. That's beyond the scope of today's lesson. I'm going to be just showing you the key insights and financial projections that you should include in your investment presentation, which will be far shorter. Okay, we're going to be actually covering two versions of LBO models. I'm going to spend the bulk of my time on the first one, which is a bigger, longer model, and this is really more geared for interviews that are longer, where the modeling test is longer. So a modeling test that's perhaps half a day, 4 hours, or even a full day. Some firms give you a full day modeling test, and it's going to be relatively complex compared to the second model, which I'll show you, and it's going to show you all the key underlying principles. We're actually going to build out a bunch of different supporting schedules that support the core model, and it's really geared for longer modeling tests. The second model, which is a short form model designed to be built within 45 to 60 minutes for a very time pressured interview, actually draws on all the same concepts as the first model, but simply it simplifies a lot of the concepts from building an 8 or 10 sheet model to just building a 2 sheet model, which will get you most of the answer and strips out a lot of the complexity in order to be able to fit within a shorter interview time frame. And I'll walk you through in the latter half how to build that short form model, but just know I'm going to spend the bulk of the time on the longer model because the second shorter model just draws upon the first one. Okay, some assumptions going in to note. I'm going to assume that you are not using any special Excel macros or PowerPoint plugins. I do this because I want to even the playing field, given that many different consulting firms and companies and investment banks often use their own proprietary or third-party macros and plugins for PowerPoint and Excel to help you use Excel more efficiently or use PowerPoint more efficiently. But because there's no common standard across the industry, I'm going to assume that you don't have access to any of those. And it's actually quite likely in your interview that your interviewer will just give you a laptop that does not have any of those special macros or plugins. So I don't want to model. I don't want to sort of show the modeling using any plugins. So that it'll end up being a little bit slower that way, but you'll actually get a real feel for how to do well without the aid of those things. I'm also, again, assuming that you have a solid understanding of accounting and corporate finance, because that's actually pretty fundamental to doing well and knowing what you're doing when you build out the income statement and the balance sheet, etc. If you don't have a solid understanding, would definitely encourage you to read up on, read a book for that. And get a basic handle on basic accounting and corporate finance. And I'm also going to understand that you have a basic understanding of how the capital markets work. Okay, what are the sources of capital that companies can tap into to raise money? What are the basic differences between raising equity versus raising debt? What are the differences at a high level between senior debt versus subordinated debt, between term loans, bank loans, and high yield loans, things of that nature. A good place to start if you don't have this background is simply, again, to pick up a book to read what are all the high level differences between different aspects of the capital structure. But I'm going to assume that you have a basic understanding of those things for this series of videos. Okay, so the agenda today, I'm going to be spending the first part quickly covering an overview of key leverage buyout concepts, and then I'm going to move on to the second part where I'm just going to show you, how I would set up Microsoft Excel to model efficiently, and I'm going to show you the key shortcuts that I use. And finally, then we're going to move on to actually building the LBO model. So stick around, stay tuned, and we'll jump into a quick overview of key LBO concepts next.